In the heart of the golden grasslands of the Masai Mara National Reserve, a legend exists, one not written through bloody hunts or displays of raw power. It is the story of Leo, a magnificent male lion with a mane as dark as ebony and amber eyes that held the depth of 1,000 years of sorrow. However, Leo was a king without a kingdom. For 2 long years, while other males were busy establishing territories and protecting prides, Leo remained fixed in a single spot, beneath a solitary acacia tree near the reserve's north gate. Whether under the scorching equatorial sun or through torrential downpours, Leo sat steadfast. His gaze never wavered from the dirt path leading to the world outside. To the tour guides, he was the ghost of the main gate, a mystical but melancholic creature. To the scientists, he was a heartbreaking puzzle, an apex predator who seemed to have forgotten the instinct to rule. As Leo's health began to fail and his mighty roars faded into weak moans in the night, Dr. Sarah, a veterinarian, realized that Leo wasn't waiting for prey or arrival. He was waiting for a promise from the past that would soon challenge every human prejudice regarding the boundary between wild instinct and a loving heart. To understand why a king of the savannah would trade his throne for a hopeless vigil, we must go back 3 years to when the tragedy began. During a summer of harsh drought, Kale, a Maasai boy with a pure soul, found a small, trembling form by a dried-up riverbank. It was Leo, then just a severely dehydrated cub, huddling next to the body of his mother, a victim of ruthless poachers. Ignoring all warnings of danger, Kale's family, humble farmers living on the edge of the wild, decided to bring the cub home. They could not turn away from the life fading in those amber eyes. In the months that followed, Kale and Leo became inseparable. Theirs was not merely a relationship between owner and pet. It was a strange intersection of 2 souls. Leo grew up not with a fear of humans, but with the warmth of caring hands. Kale would sit for hours beside the fast-growing lion, whispering stories of the stars above the savannah. In return, Leo would rest his head on the boy's lap, emitting deep purrs so powerful they felt like the earth itself was breathing. Kale taught Leo how to play, and Leo taught Kale how to listen to the language of the wind and grass. Together, they created a private world where no boundaries existed between man and beast. However, a lion's destiny belongs to the horizon, not a small backyard. As Leo began to grow his mane and his hunting instincts sharpened, local authorities intervened. Keeping a male lion in a residential area was impossible. The separation was a painful silence. Kale's father reached an agreement with rangers to move Leo to a vast national reserve where he could live the life he was meant for. On the day of the transfer, Kale personally led Leo to the transport crate. The boy knelt, pressed his forehead against the future king's, and whispered a final promise. "I will never forget you. Wait for me." The rangers, following strict wilding protocols, demanded that Kale's family cut all contact. They believed that erasing his past with humans was the only way for Leo to integrate into nature. They assumed animal memory was short-term and that Leo would soon find a new pride to lead. They were wrong. They underestimated the depth of a grateful heart. To Leo, the vast freedom of the Masai Mara was merely a beautiful, empty cage. Every dawn was not the start of a hunt, but the beginning of a new day of waiting. He stood exactly where he last saw Kale's family car disappear, believing that as long as he stayed, his dearest friend would surely return for him. Time on the savannah is measured not just by rainy seasons, but by the gradual fading of a will. Leo's condition became a serious concern for the reserve management. Through her binoculars, Dr. Sarah observed Leo's ribs protruding through his dull, matted fur. He was no longer an apex predator. He looked like a ghost vanishing into the morning mist. The most heartbreaking part was that Leo wasn't injured or diseased. His wasting away came from within, a virus of the soul that modern medicine rarely touches. Local prides tried to approach Leo several times. Young lionesses sought a strong leader, and nomadic males sought to challenge the stranger. Leo rejected them all. If anyone came too close to his space under the acacia tree, he would emit a low growl, not to claim territory, but to plead for solitude. He was starving himself, not for lack of food, as rangers secretly left fresh meat nearby, but because he had lost his purpose. A lion without a pride and without connection loses his reason to roar. The veterinary team tried every possible measure. They moved feeding stations deeper into the park, hoping to lure Leo away from the gate. They even spread the scent marks of other prides to trigger his territorial instincts. All failed. No matter where he was taken, Leo would trek for miles to return to the old acacia tree. His eyes remained fixed on the trail, searching through hundreds of tourist jeeps for the one familiar face that had promised never to forget him. Dr. Sarah began digging through old, dusty rescue files. She delved into Leo's past and found a contact information for a small farming family. She realized the rigid rewilding process had backfired. By forcing a creature with high emotional intelligence to sever ties with his rescuers, the experts had imprisoned him in a loop of waiting and doubt. Leo wasn't failing to adapt. He was simply refusing to enter that life until he knew why he had been left behind. Sarah knew that without a breakthrough, the king of the Masai Mara would die of a broken heart before he could ever take his throne. She decided to do something that went against every rule: reconnect the past to save the future. Dr. Sarah knew she was putting her career on the line. In the world of wildlife conservation, reintroducing humans into the life of a grown lion is considered a grave mistake. But looking at Leo, now a skeletal shadow of himself, she knew she had no choice. She found Kale, now a tall young man. When she told him of Leo's condition, Kale didn't hesitate. His eyes were filled with pain, but also resolve. He said softly, "He is still waiting for me. I've known it all along." A plan was set, not to bring Leo back to the farm, but to give him the spiritual key to his true freedom. On the morning of the reunion, the air at the North Gate was thick with tension. Rangers stood ready with tranquilizer guns, a mandatory safety measure, as no one could predict how a 200 kilograms male lion would react when wild instinct met old memories. Sarah's car slowly approached the acacia tree. Leo, who had been lying listlessly, suddenly stood up. His ears pricked, his tail flicked with excitement, an energy no one had seen in 2 years. Kale stepped out of the car, his heart pounding. Following Sarah's instructions, he didn't run or shout. He stopped about 20 meters from the barrier and slowly sat on the ground in the dust, just as he used to do in their small backyard. In that moment, the entire savanna seemed to hold its breath. There was no roar, no bloody attack. Kale began to hum a low melody, an ancient Maasai lullaby he used to sing to Leo during summer thunderstorms. Then, a miracle happened. Leo didn't charge with claws out. Instead, he made a chuffing sound, the specific feline greeting for Pride members. The massive beast approached, pressing his huge body against the fence, trying to rub his mane against the steel mesh, desperate to feel the warmth and vibration of Kale's voice. Tears streamed down Kale's cheeks as he reached out to lightly touch the coarse mane through the gaps in the fence. It wasn't an encounter between a human and a predator, but a reunion between two brothers separated by prejudice. Kale whispered to Leo in his native tongue, telling him he had never forgotten him and that he was now strong enough to protect the whole savanna. This wordless conversation lasted for hours, shattering every rigid rule of conservation. Leo no longer looked at the trail. He looked only at Kale. The presence of the boy he once knew healed the deepest wound in the forgotten king's soul, erasing the doubt that he had been abandoned. As the sun began to set, an unspoken understanding was reached. Leo didn't need to wait anymore, because love had found him. The reunion was more than just a rare event. It was a miraculous medicine for Leo's soul. After meeting Kale and receiving a loving farewell, a spectacular change occurred. The next morning, for the first time in 2 years, Leo was not waiting under the acacia tree at dawn. He turned his back on the trail and looked toward the rolling hills of the Masai Mara with a completely different posture, stately and purposeful. The weight of waiting had been lifted, replaced by the strength of a creature that had found peace. Within weeks, Leo's health recovered at a staggering pace. He began to hunt again, his muscles rippling under the sun. His roar returned, echoing through the valley with an authority that commanded respect from every living thing. Not long after, Leo met and led a group of young nomadic lionesses. He no longer drove others away with his sorrow. He welcomed them with the protection of a true leader. Leo had officially taken his throne, not because instinct forced him to, but because he was finally ready to live the life of a king. Leo's story sparked a wave of change in international conservation thinking. It proved a truth that science often avoids. Wild animals possess deep emotional memories and social bonds no less profound than those of humans. Dr. Sarah and her team proposed a new rescue model where the transition from captive care to the wild is handled more humanely, allowing animals time to say goodbye to their past rather than being abruptly cut off. It was a costly lesson in compassion, that sometimes the solution to a biological problem lies in emotional understanding. Today, if you visit the Masai Mara, guides might point out a majestic male lion with a signature black mane standing on a high rock outcropping. That is Leo. Sometimes he is still seen looking north in the early morning, but is no longer the desperate gaze of the abandoned. It is the affectionate look of a friend sending a greeting through the wind. Leo proved that love is not a barrier to the wild, but the very source of strength that allows a creature to overcome adversity. The story of Leo and Kale is a gentle reminder that in this vast world, connection is the key to healing all wounds. Whoever you are, wherever you are, or whatever loneliness you face, believe that there is always an invisible bond leading you home.